Hi guys, my name is Joe, and welcome to Media Fight Mondays, where I take a fight scene from TVs, movies, animation, and so on, and I break it down, and then I grade it based on realism and storytelling value. So today I'm going to be taking a look at the final fight from Rocky V from 1990. As fans of the Rocky franchise will know, this is sort of notoriously the worst movie in the franchise. I'm going to go ahead and say that it wasn't because of this fight. There were a lot of things wrong with it. The story behind the fight, the lead up to this fight, Rocky has retired from the ring. He discovers a protege in the form of Tommy Gunn, played by real-life boxer Tommy Morrison, brings him up through the ranks, and over the course of their relationship, Rocky is very giving. Tommy wants things to move faster, so he hitches his star to a different manager, and a rift is formed. And ultimately, this results in Tommy sort of getting a little out of control. He punches Rocky's friend Paulie, so Rocky's like, alright, let's take this outside. In the opening of this film, Rocky is experiencing some notable brain trauma, and the reason he retired is that the doctors are like, if you take another punch, it's gonna kill you. I mean, not in so many words. I don't think that they put it quite that way. But the idea is you need to retire because you could break your brain if you keep doing this. As far as the backgrounds of the actors, as I mentioned, Tommy Morrison was a real-life heavyweight boxer. Sylvester Stallone obviously did a lot of boxing training for his Rocky movies. I think he has some additional training. I haven't been able to find out exactly what. But he's appeared in other movies using things like, kicks and palm strikes and, like non-boxing techniques. The choreographer for this is Bobby Bass, who choreographed a number of films. He was a judo champion. He got into stunts because he was friends with Judo Gene LaBelle, who, in addition to being another judoka, was also a professional wrestler and a stuntman. He was a stunt coordinator for a number of movies. IMDb says that he popularized the use of the headbutt in movie fights. So that's kind of neat. And also, as a bit of trivia, he is the stepfather of actress Bo Derek. So let's get to the fight. So Rocky opens up with a series of hooks and body shots in typical Rocky fashion. Rocky is a southpaw, so he tends to lead with his right side, which is why most of his hooks are going to come from that side. So Rocky tries to talk some sense into Tommy, walks away. Tommy's not having it. Kidney punch, that's illegal. A kick, interesting. Again, series of rights and lefts, really going for the knockout, as you should. And now we get a scuffle. So that was Tommy picking him up, not really a proper double leg, more like a body lock, and just running Rocky through some of the surrounding area. And at this point, we can see that they are incorporating some obstacles into this fight. They ran into the dumpster earlier, and then Rocky got rammed through a gate, or a door, I guess. So they're back on the feet. It's another big right hand. Boom. Another big right hand. Rocky's really holding his head to sort of sell the idea of, something's going wrong here. He's getting flashbacks to Ivan Drago. He's sort of waving things off. Takes a big punch. So Ivan Drago was his opponent in the last film, who actually beat him to the point that he's like, I think something broke inside. I am not the same. And in this series of flashbacks, he's hearing his teacher's voice, like, remember, kid, Mickey loves you. He's like, hey, I didn't hear no bell. And the fight resumes. So he hooks him up in a half Nelson and basically starts rabbit punching him. Rabbit punch or punches to the back of the head and the back of the neck. Trips him, kind of. Sort of lets him trip himself, really. And that's some weird breakdance sweeping the leg with an arm thing. You know, Tommy's doing some clinched body punching, including another kidney punch. Not a bad tactic. Rocky's finally dodging some punches, covering up against the body shots, and throws him into the fence, which isn't going to hurt as bad as you might think. Tommy comes back and sort of a body lock tackle, picks him up in sort of a reverse bear hug, and that's actually a standing switch in a kind of a suplex. Throws like that are dangerous when you have a hard surface. If you throw someone backwards, they could land on their skull, which might result in a skull fracture. They could land at an awkward angle and cause severe damage to their cervical vertebrae. This is something that could potentially be life-changing or life-ending. It's a dangerous thing to use. It can be incredibly powerful. You know, even on a mat, you can really rattle somebody with a throw like that. But I would caution anyone who thinks about using this, just make sure it's the appropriate tool for the situation you're in. So jab followed by a hook, another few jabs, a missed hook by Tommy, another few jabs by Rocky. Left and a right, and another left by Tommy, and now we're getting back into the brawl. Sort of an uppercut, straight. He's showing the left, but when it cuts, he's throwing his right. That's bad. I'm going to take some points off of that. Some more body punches. Okay, I have to say, one of the things that I really dislike about the choreography in Rocky, I understand that it's done to build tension and for dramatic effect. There's typically a lot more in the way of defense in boxing. If you look at the statistics for, punches landed versus punches thrown, rarely will you get outside of about 1 out of every 3 punches actually hit their target. In the Rocky movies, just about all of them do. And it drives me crazy. I understand it's good for drama. For realism, drives me nuts. Rocky's working the body again. It's a good idea to throw body punches. Well, if you're going to throw bare-knuckle punches, throwing them to the body stands less of a chance of injuring your hand. Go. He's lining him up for his left. Boom. Lining him up again. Boom. One more time. He's got another one? No, that was a... Couldn't tell whether that was a hook or an uppercut. There's a punch that splits the difference called a shovel hook that comes in at about this 45 degrees. Rating for realism. As I mentioned, typically with trained boxers, you'll get a lot more in the way of defense, even against other boxers. This was a street fight, but even so, I think more of the punches should have missed. They're doing an awful lot of punching with bare knuckles, or a broken hand may not immediately stop someone from punching if the adrenaline's going, but I'd almost believe that X-rays of either of their hands at this point, it's just going to look like gravel, you know, because they were throwing a lot of headshots. I mentioned the utility of throwing body shots if you're throwing bare knuckle. The thing is, in most street fights, we don't see a whole lot of body shots. It does work well with Rocky's style. He's always been a body puncher. So I think some of those aspects were realistic. I liked some of the holding and hitting that they did and some of the illegal shots, like, you know, the rabbit punches and the kidney punches. Some of those weird trips by Rocky, those aren't a thing. You know, not particularly realistic. You know, picking each other up and slamming each other, you will see that, like, you know, on your World Star fights or whatever. Those seem to be the most instinctive types of throws or takedowns. It's just grabbing somebody, lifting them up, and slamming them, right? I'm really torn on the realistic versus not realistic elements of this fight. I think because of that, I'm just going to give it a flat C, which is average. I've had fights that I liked a lot more that I graded worse. As far as the storytelling goes, it's mostly like an ebb and flow. You know, Rocky gets the first knockdown, and then Tommy gets the second one. You know, like, we see the old hit injury really being played up, although we don't really come back to it after Rocky gets back up. So we see knockdowns, we do see the environment being incorporated into things. A little bit of rudimentary grappling. Again, I'm surprised that Rocky hit a standing switch. You know, like Rocky shows some wrestling in this fight, you know, between the switch and the half Nelson and the throw. But we see him, he does get to a point where he's like, okay, this isn't boxing, so I'm going to stop boxing for a little bit. I'm going to do more than simply box. It's a brief section. I'm glad that we have it. I wish we got more of that. I do think in the theme of the Rocky movies, it does make more sense. Body, 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 big punch, big punch, big punch. I do think they made some mistakes with the editing toward that final sequence there. You know, we see Tommy loading up with his left and then punching Rocky with his right. I think there were a couple of frames that got repeated there. Overall, I do think it stuck pretty well with the overall story it was trying to tell. I think the story of the fight did, as I said, had an ebb and flow of its own. A-, which is higher than I initially thought. But, you know, upon reflection, again, we see different chapters of this fight playing out. And we see different aspects of other elements being incorporated, like the hit injury. Like, you know, Rocky starts incorporating all those, you know, leg sweeps and stuff when Paulie's like, remember the streets, or something like that, you know. You know, we do see how other elements come into play here. So, yeah, a better story than I initially thought. So, anyway, thank you for watching. That's all I have for now. If you would like to support the channel, you can donate to my Ko-fi. There's going to be a link in the description. There's going to be a link on my main page. And thank you for watching, and catch my Friday video, please.